So there have been a lot of changes in Walt Disney World. Some of them have not been so great, but we've got a few today that we think turned out much better than anyone expected them to. Let's get started. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. We are going to talk about some changes today that we think actually turned out much better than anyone expected them to in Walt Disney World. Things that Disney announced and people were thinking, really, this is what's coming next? And believe it or not, they turned out all right. So we're going to walk through those with you, and we'd love to hear what you think. Let us know in the comments if these were your favorite changes, if you think they were actually worse than you expected. We'd love to hear your thoughts. First up, we're going to talk about magic bands. Now, people are creatures of habit and didn't think that they like having to wear those magic bands. Now, for those who don't know, magic bands are bands that go around your wrist and basically have all of your information encoded in an RFID chip that you can then use to pay for purchases, ride rides, get fast passes, etc. So your little band goes with you everywhere in Walt Disney World and makes sure that you have all the information you need. And when they were first announced, people thought that for sure they would make things way more complicated than the actual tickets we were all used to. So we were expecting tech mishaps and confusion all over the place. And let's be honest, there were a lot of tech mishaps. There was a lot of confusion there at the beginning. And I think that the My Disney Experience rollout team probably had a rough few months. But after those few months of getting used to the system, magic bands have proven themselves to be a great option. They are super convenient. You don't have to carry tickets. You don't have to dig them out of your bag every single time you ride a ride. Your ticket can't be used by someone else, and Disney has a much easier time getting you a replacement should you lose your magic band. Plus, for me, I think it's great because there are actually sometimes if I don't bring my huge DSLR camera into the park, I can just bring my magic band, stick my phone in my back pocket, and that's all I need. I don't even need a wallet. I don't need a purse. I don't need anything else with me. I can just use those two things and I have everything I need to walk in the parks, which means I don't have to go through the bag check line. Now, magic bands came along with My Disney Experience, the app that we all have because we have to, and it makes it super easy to make changes to your vacation on the fly. So through the My Disney Experience app, online check-in lets you make room requests ahead of time, skip the front desk completely. You don't even have to stop to get a key because it's already on your magic band, which was sent to your house before you even left. And you can make and change dining reservations super easily with that My Disney Experience app, and fast passes as well. And you can even check those bus times so you know when the next bus for the park you're going to is getting to your resort. So that's a great benefit to not having to sit and wait for 20 minutes if a bus just left. So while there was a big learning curve with magic bands in My Disney Experience, and there's still occasionally a glitch or two, magic bands have turned out way better than we expected and certainly make our vacations a whole lot easier. And I'll tell you what, you guys, I miss magic bands when I'm in Disneyland. When I'm in Disneyland and I have to dig out my annual pass, my ID, my room key, all that stuff has to be with me all the time. It is kind of, I miss the magic band, which it's all on there and it's so easy. Okay, the next Disney change that turned out a lot better than we expected was New Fantasyland. You guys remember back in 2012, New Fantasyland opened? Probably a lot of you are newer fans and maybe don't remember the changes that happened that year. That was a big deal, you guys. And dedicated Disney fans were pretty upset when they heard that Toontown was closing. So yeah, back there in the back of Magic Kingdom used to be Toontown with Mickey's house and Minnie's house and Donald's boat, etc., etc. So that closed in 2011 to make way for an expansion of a land we already had. Why does that make sense? But it also didn't really help that this new land would be opening in phases, meaning classic attractions were being moved across the park, i.e. Dumbo was actually taken away and moved over to New Fantasyland. And then Snow White's Scary Adventures, which was a classic OG attraction, closed in 2012 with the changes in Fantasyland as well, which is still kind of unfortunate, I'm not gonna lie. Although that ride is really scary. I don't know if you guys have ridden that in Disneyland lately. That is a really scary ride. But anyway, it wasn't until the end of 2012 and beginning of 2013 that we started to see some of those new additions that would really make this land something special. Specifically, we had that opening of Be Our Guest restaurant that opened in November of 2012. Long lines, lots of hype. Remember, you could not get a reservation. still kind of can't get a reservation, but at least they made some changes so that breakfast and lunch are a little bit easier to get than dinner. And then of course we had the whole Ariel attraction area, Storybook Circus. The rest of the Beauty and the Beast attractions joined Be Our Guest restaurant. And finally in 2014, Mine Train opened, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and we finally got to experience the land as a whole with double the Dumbo. So we had 2 actual Dumbo rides instead of just 1. Those Tangled toilets were added, meeting all the princesses and classic characters. So the layout is actually really good, and we don't miss Toontown quite as much as we thought we would, although we do still miss Toontown. Now, something else to add in here is a change that I think there's still a lot of argument about. So I don't want to say straight out that this one was much better than expected. I think people are still questioning whether or not this was a good change for them personally, or whether it was a good change for Disney, and that is when Be Our Guest introduced alcohol into the park, into Magic Kingdom for the very first time. So prior to Be Our Guest opening in 2012, there was no alcohol in Magic Kingdom. It was a completely dry park, and then they decided to add the beer and wine options there at Be Our Guest restaurant. So there was a lot of controversy around that, and still is a lot of controversy around that. And of course that opened the floodgates for the rest of the park adding alcohol. So I believe now every single table service restaurant in Magic Kingdom does serve alcohol to their patrons. Now you cannot get alcohol outside of table service restaurants at the moment. You can only get it inside of table service restaurants, and you can't bring it out with you. You have to consume it inside that restaurant. But at this point, every table service restaurant I think does have alcohol, and that started in 2012 with the Be Our Guest edition of the beer and wine menu. So again, people aren't quite sure about that one. That's a change that is still debated pretty consistently among Disney fans. All right, the next one that turned out way better than expected, some ride overhauls. I'm sure some people may feel that these ride overhauls aren't necessarily better than expected, but overall reviews are really, really good. Let's start out with Tower of Terror over there in Disney California Adventure. Lots of people were super upset and terrified and angry when they heard that TOT would be transformed to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Like, why would they mess with something so iconic as the Tower of Terror original ride? And people were worried that superheroes would come for the original at Hollywood Studios. And of course, there have been plenty of rumors about Tower of Terror being turned into something else in Hollywood Studios. So Tower of Terror opened in Disney California Adventure in 2004 in an effort to bring more targeted adult rides to the park, and it grew a strong fan base. They loved the West Coast iteration of the Twilight Zone attraction, and everybody was happy. They liked it. It was great. But in July of 2016, it was announced that this ride would get a new Marvel overlay, and Tower of Terror officially closed in January 2017 to reopen in May as Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Now, the new overlay was way more detailed and crowd-pleasing than most of us ever expected. That queue winds through the collector's archives and showcases some awesome props from Marvel films as well as animatronics, plus Easter eggs like Figment from the classic Epcot attraction, whose ride overhaul didn't go so well. We will not talk about that one in this video. You can check it out in this video over here. But I think overall people have been pretty happy about this particular ride overhaul, and people are really enjoying the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout experience. So another ride overhaul that was concerning for those of us who love Disney was when we heard that Soarin' would be changing in 2016. So the original ride debuted in 2001 in Disney California Adventure and was then copied over in Epcot in 2005. Now both had that original California only theme, which would take guests flying over Orange Groves, Malibu, and downtown LA. Now the new version first debuted in Shanghai Disney and opened everywhere else the following day. This one features scenes from around the world and a new score and more advanced filming techniques, along with computer-generated transitions between those scenes. So while some people were concerned that Soarin' over California was being turned into Soarin' over the world, overall, I think people are pleasantly surprised with the update, and it was better received by international audiences, obviously. Now, we've also seen some changes to very classic attractions as well that concerned some people. For example, people were pretty mad when they added Johnny Depp into Pirates of the Caribbean in 2006. But luckily, the addition of film characters to this attraction was done in a much less in-your-face way than, for example, the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, which was our only kind of overlay experience in Magic Kingdom at the time. And I think people are enjoying seeing Johnny right there in the Pirates of the Caribbean experience. It's kind of fun. And, you know, every once in a while, apparently he shows up in the Disneyland attraction live and in the flesh. So you never know when you're going to come across Johnny just popping his head up over that barrel of rum. Now, another change that we think came out much better than expected is the change of Downtown Disney into Disney Springs in Walt Disney World. This one definitely turned out much better than expected, although to be fair, after the failed Hyperion Wharf project, people didn't really expect very much. So we were all pretty much just happy with just getting something back. But it turns out Disney Springs was pretty great. People hated when Pleasure Island and Adventurers Club were closed, and Disney spent years flip-flopping on different concepts to bring the ultimate shopping and dining district to Disney World. And so by the time plans for Disney Springs were announced in 2015, it all seemed pretty unattainable. But Downtown Disney was transformed from 3 not very well connected areas to a much more cohesive shopping and dining area of Disney World that's so popular it basically acts as a 5th gate. And it's not just something to do on arrival day anymore, it's a legit destination. A lot of people go there, make sure they get there for specific stores, specific restaurants, which frankly, I think Disney Springs has the best restaurants of any park in Walt Disney World period at this point. Next one, let's talk about Pandora. I think there was a lot of controversy, concern, and debate about Pandora over there in Animal Kingdom while it was being built. People were excited for it, but a lot of people were kind of saying, why? This doesn't make any sense. They didn't understand why this film should get its own land in Disney World of all places. Now sure, Avatar is still one of the highest grossing films of all time, but it didn't quite fit into what we think of as a Disney theme park land, and the franchise hasn't really kept up the same kind of attention it garnered when it first came out. So I think a lot of people saw it as an attempt to beat out Universal with a different movie-themed land to compete with Harry Potter, that it just wasn't going to turn out very well. Well, as we know, Pandora has made Animal Kingdom more than a half-day park for the first time ever, and the Imagineering and technology in this land have completely blown us away. Flight of Passage is incredible. I will ride it over and over and over again. It is excellent. And even Navi River Journey has one of the most advanced audio animatronics ever created. And then, of course, there's the dining options. Satuli Canteen was completely different than anyone expected. It brought in a lot of food trends and a lot of healthier items that I think people have really welcomed in Animal Kingdom and in Walt Disney World in general. So even if you haven't seen the film, the land is incredibly immersive and entertaining, although you might want to see the film because there's 3 more in the franchise still to come. Okay, so speaking of restaurants, let's talk about a few restaurant and menu changes that have happened that people were concerned about, but they've turned out to be really good changes for Walt Disney World and for the guests that visit. So first up, Pecos Bill, over there in Magic Kingdom's Frontierland, went from standard theme park fare burgers, chicken sandwiches, chili, and barbecue pork to Southwest-style entrees like fajitas and burritos. Now, this was a pretty dramatic change for the Magic Kingdom location, but reviews were pretty favorable from the get-go with super large portions, and again, that great toppings bar. Now you can still get a burger, but now it comes with tortilla chips. And over in Disneyland, what was intended to be a temporary overlay of Village House in 2017 to promote the live-action Beauty and the Beast release, Red Rose Tavern has become a mainstay in the park, and this has led to Disneyland Resort introducing new and different menu items in that location that perhaps they would never have introduced otherwise, like the gray stuff, which you can also find at Be Our Guest restaurant, a variety of poutine, and even more. Plus, they just dropped an awesome new breakfast menu featuring a breakfast burger and stuffed French toast. So there's lots of good stuff over there at Red Rose Tavern, and to date it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. Back in Disney World, lots of people were sad to see the signature meal offered at Artist Point at Wilderness Lodge leave in favor of all things another character meal. So this made people very upset. They loved Artist Point, they loved the signature dining option in Wilderness Lodge, and now we're getting a character meal? But the new character dining actually seems to be one of the best character meals on property. You get to see characters that you really don't see very many other places, like the Evil Queen and Dopey and Grumpy, who you don't really get to see except for at special hard ticket event parties. And the food is actually really excellent. It's some of the best food and one of the most unique menus for any character meal. So I actually can really highly recommend this one. Believe it or not, I recommend it more highly than I did Artist Point when it was there originally. So the food, the characters, and the experience here, I think, are a better option than Artist Point. I really never had a great experience at Artist Point. So to me, this is a great change, and I think a lot of people do agree with me, but let me know in the comments if you don't. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So there are a bunch of Disney changes that have turned out much better than we really expected them to, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments. Did you like these changes? Did you not like these changes? Let us know some other changes that you've seen that maybe you were worried about, but they actually turned out okay. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, you guys, and thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like what we're talking about, and also give us your ideas. We'd love to hear what you want to see done on the channel. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.